Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Here, we explore the fascinating world of science, from the mysteries of the universe to the wonders of everyday life. Sit back, relax, and let's discover something amazing together. Today, I would like to talk about something that affects all of us every single day: sleep. Many people think of sleep as simply a biological necessity, something the body needs to recharge. But sleep is deeply connected to psychology. The way we think, the way we feel, and the kind of information we consume all influence how easily we fall asleep and how well we rest. In this presentation, we will explore how the human brain responds to safety, rhythm, and gentle information. We will look at why calm sounds help us relax, why predictable routines make us feel secure, and how simple psychological principles can improve the quality of our sleep. By understanding these ideas, we can begin to see that better sleep is not only about physical habits, it is also about creating mental peace. In recent years, more and more people quietly admit the same thing: falling asleep is harder than it used to be. The lights go off, the room grows still, yet the mind continues its steady hum. Thoughts replay conversations from earlier in the day. Small worries stretch into larger shapes. Tomorrow's responsibilities line up one by one, as if they have been waiting for darkness to make their entrance. From a psychological perspective, this is not a personal failure. It is a natural response to the way modern life is structured. Throughout the day, your brain absorbs an enormous amount of stimulation. Notifications flash. Conversations overlap. News headlines compete for attention. Even when you are physically still, your mind is constantly evaluating information, deciding what is important, what is urgent, and what might require action later. This constant processing keeps the nervous system slightly activated. When night arrives, the body may be tired, but the brain does not instantly power down. It has momentum. Just as a moving train does not stop the moment the brakes are applied, the mind needs time to slow. Another reason sleep has become more difficult is emotional carryover. Psychologists have long observed that unfinished tasks and unresolved thoughts remain active in the mind. This is known as the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency to remember incomplete activities more than completed ones. When you lie down at night, your brain may gently remind you of everything that still needs attention. It believes it is helping. There is also a subtle pressure surrounding sleep itself. Many people have experienced the paradox: the more you try to force yourself to sleep, the more awake you feel. This happens because effort activates alertness. When you think, "I must fall asleep right now," your body interprets that urgency as a sign that something important is happening. Heart rate may rise slightly. Muscles tighten without you noticing. The nervous system shifts into a mild state of vigilance. Psychology offers a comforting truth here: sleep cannot be commanded. It must be invited. The brain transitions into rest when it senses safety and reduced stimulation. When thoughts become slower and less demanding, physiological changes follow. Breathing deepens. The heartbeat steadies. Muscles soften. These changes are not dramatic. They are gradual, like the dimming of evening light. Understanding this reduces self-blame. If your mind continues thinking at night, it is not broken. It is simply doing what it evolved to do: scan, process, protect. The goal is not to silence it completely, but to guide it gently toward calmer territory. This presentation will explore psychological truths that are simple but powerful. They do not involve complex techniques or strict rules. Instead, they focus on how memory works during sleep, how emotions settle after rest, how habits signal safety to the brain, and how gentle input can quiet stress responses. When you begin to understand these mechanisms, something shifts. Sleep becomes less of a performance and more of a process. Instead of battling your thoughts, you cooperate with them. Instead of demanding immediate unconsciousness, you create conditions that encourage it. Sleep thrives in calm environments, both external and internal. The environment may include dim lighting, a comfortable temperature, and minimal noise. Internally, it involves softer thinking, predictable routines, and a sense of emotional security. Many people underestimate the role of perception. If the brain perceives danger, whether physical or emotional, it remains alert. Even abstract threats, such as imagined future problems, can trigger mild stress responses. When the brain perceives safety, it allows relaxation systems to activate. This means that improving sleep is not only about physical comfort. It is about psychological reassurance. When your mind feels understood rather than criticized, tension decreases. And in that decrease, space opens. In the next chapter, we will look more closely at the brain itself, how it continues functioning during sleep, and how certain mental states activate the body's natural relaxation system. Understanding these internal processes can make sleep feel less mysterious and far more accessible. Even when you are asleep, your brain does not turn off. It shifts. Throughout the day, your brain operates in patterns associated with alertness, quick electrical activity that supports decision-making, problem-solving, and attention. This state is useful. It helps you respond to conversations, traffic, deadlines, and unexpected events. But at night, this same rapid activity can make rest feel distant. Sleep begins not with silence, but with a change in rhythm. As you prepare for rest, the brain gradually transitions into slower wave patterns. These slower rhythms are associated with calm focus, daydreaming, and eventually deep sleep. This shift does not happen instantly. It requires a signal, a cue that it is safe to slow down. This is where the autonomic nervous system plays a crucial role. The autonomic nervous system has two main branches. The first is the sympathetic nervous system, often described as the fight or flight system. It increases heart rate, sharpens attention, and prepares the body for action. The second is the parasympathetic nervous system, sometimes called the rest and digest system. It slows the heart, supports digestion, and encourages relaxation. Both systems are necessary. The goal is balance. During a busy day, the sympathetic system tends to dominate. Even small stressors, an urgent email, a crowded commute, a difficult conversation, activate mild alertness. By bedtime, your body may still carry traces of that activation. To fall asleep more easily, the parasympathetic system needs space to take the lead. One of the simplest ways this shift occurs is through breathing. When you breathe slowly and steadily, especially when the exhale is slightly longer than the inhale, you stimulate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a major pathway connecting the brain to the body. When activated, it signals safety. Heart rate decreases. Blood pressure softens. Muscles begin to release tension. This is not dramatic. It is subtle, like lowering the volume on background noise. Your thoughts influence this system as well. Rapid, scattered thinking maintains alertness. Slower, repetitive mental patterns reduce it. Research in psychophysiology shows that steady mental imagery, such as imagining walking calmly along a quiet path, can lower physiological arousal. The brain responds to the tone of your thoughts, not just their content. Another important factor is predictability. From an evolutionary perspective, unpredictability required vigilance. Sudden sounds or unexpected changes signaled possible danger. Predictable rhythms, however, signaled stability. This is why repetitive sounds, soft rain, steady breathing, a calm voice, often feel soothing. They reduce the need for constant monitoring. Your brain constantly scans for change. When change decreases, vigilance decreases. Cognitive load also plays a role. When you engage with complex or emotionally intense information, certain brain regions, especially the amygdala, become more active. The amygdala is involved in processing fear and stress. Highly stimulating content before bed keeps this region alert. In contrast, neutral or gently engaging content reduces activation in stress-related areas. Listening to something calm gives your brain structure without urgency. It is like giving your mind a quiet place to sit rather than leaving it wandering through unfinished thoughts. There is also a conditioning effect at work. Over time, your brain learns associations. If bedtime repeatedly includes scrolling through stimulating media, the brain links bed with alertness. If bedtime includes dim lighting, slow breathing, and calm input, the brain links bed with relaxation. This is a basic psychological principle known as classical conditioning. The brain connects cues with states. Consistency strengthens the connection. Temperature and light interact with this system too. As evening approaches, natural darkness signals the release of melatonin, a hormone that supports sleep onset. Bright light suppresses it. A cooler room temperature also supports the body's nighttime shift, as core temperature naturally drops during sleep preparation. All of these mechanisms work together. The body already knows how to sleep. The nervous system is designed for cycles of alertness and rest. The challenge in modern life is that constant stimulation delays the shift. It helps to remember that relaxation is not something you achieve instantly. It is something you allow to unfold. If you lie down and notice your mind still active, this does not mean failure. It simply means the transition is still in progress. Instead of forcing silence, you can gently reduce speed. Imagine your thoughts as cars on a highway. During the day, they move quickly. At night, you are not trying to remove them all at once. You are gradually lowering the speed limit. When breathing slows, thoughts follow. When thoughts soften, the nervous system follows. When the nervous system calms, sleep approaches. Understanding these mechanisms removes some of the mystery. You are not waiting for something unpredictable. You are supporting a natural biological shift. In the next chapter, we will explore specific psychological truths about memory, dreams, emotions, and daily habits. Gentle insights that reveal how sleep restores the mind and how small adjustments can make a meaningful difference. Sleep is not empty time. It is active restoration. While you rest, your brain quietly organizes the day. Experiences are sorted. Some memories are strengthened. Others are gently trimmed away. This process happens mostly during specific stages of sleep, particularly slow-wave sleep and REM sleep. Scientists observing brain activity during these stages have found patterns that suggest memory consolidation, the stabilizing and integrating of new information into long-term storage. In simple terms, your brain uses the night shift to file what you lived through during the day. Interestingly, emotional experiences often receive priority. If something made you anxious, excited, embarrassed, or joyful, your brain tends to revisit it during sleep. This does not mean you consciously replay the event, but neural patterns associated with it are reactivated. Over time, this reactivation helps reduce the emotional intensity. That is one reason problems sometimes feel lighter in the morning. Research using brain imaging shows that after a full night of sleep, the connection between the amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm center, and the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for reasoning and regulation, becomes more balanced. When sleep is insufficient, the amygdala reacts more strongly to negative stimuli. With adequate rest, emotional responses are moderated. In other words, sleep restores emotional proportion. Dreams are part of this process. Although scientists still debate their precise function, many agree that dreams help the brain process feelings in a safer environment. During REM sleep, emotional centers remain active, but stress-related chemicals such as norepinephrine decrease. This creates a unique condition. You can revisit emotional material without the full physiological stress response. This might explain why dreams sometimes feel symbolic or slightly distant. The brain is exploring themes without activating full alarm systems. Another gentle truth is that pre-sleep mental imagery can influence emotional tone. Studies suggest that focusing on calming, positive imagery before bed increases the likelihood of more neutral or pleasant dream content. You are not controlling your dreams entirely, but you are setting an emotional atmosphere. For example, imagining a quiet shoreline or a softly lit room signals calm to the brain. The emotional context carries into sleep. Memory also benefits from repetition and predictability. When you establish a steady bedtime routine, the brain encodes that pattern. Over time, it begins to associate specific cues, such as dim lights or a particular piece of music, with sleep preparation. This association reduces cognitive effort. Habits function as shortcuts for the brain. Your circadian rhythm, often called the body's internal clock, operates on a roughly 24-hour cycle. It is regulated by a small structure in the brain known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Light exposure is its primary signal. In the evening, reduced light triggers the release of melatonin, which supports sleep onset. Bright screens and strong lighting can delay this signal. Gentle lighting supports it. Temperature also influences rhythm. As bedtime approaches, your body naturally lowers its core temperature slightly. A cooler environment reinforces this biological cue. Beyond biology, there is psychological safety. Humans relax more easily when they feel secure. This sense of safety is not limited to physical surroundings. It includes emotional predictability. Familiar voices, known environments, and steady routines reduce vigilance. The brain does not need to scan constantly when it recognizes its surroundings. This is why listening to a calm, familiar speaker can feel comforting. Novelty requires evaluation. Familiarity allows release. Gratitude offers another subtle benefit. When you reflect on something you appreciate, no matter how small, your brain shifts attention away from threat detection. Studies in positive psychology show that gratitude practices are associated with increased activity in regions linked to reward and social bonding. These states counterbalance stress responses. Similarly, compassion and empathy activate neural systems related to connection. Feeling connected reduces perceived threat. When perceived threat decreases, relaxation becomes possible. It is also important to understand that negative emotions naturally lose intensity over time when supported by sleep. Sleep deprivation, on the other hand, amplifies irritability and anxiety. The brain without rest is more reactive. If you have ever felt unusually sensitive after a poor night's sleep, this is not a flaw in character. It is neurobiology. All of these truths point to a reassuring conclusion. Your mind is designed to reset. Emotional spikes are temporary when sleep is consistent. Memory is organized without conscious effort. The nervous system shifts toward balance when given the right conditions. The goal is not to eliminate thoughts or emotions before bed. It is to gently guide them towards softer terrain. In the next chapter, we will explore practical applications, simple, evidence-based techniques you can use each evening to align your thoughts, habits, and environment with your brain's natural rhythm for sleep. One of the most powerful yet understated truths about sleep is this: you relax more easily when you feel safe. Safety is not only physical, it is psychological. You may be inside a secure room, under warm blankets, yet if your mind senses uncertainty or threat, real or imagined, your nervous system remains alert. The brain is designed to protect you. Before it allows deep rest, it asks a silent question: is it safe to let go? When the answer feels like yes, the body softens. From a neurological perspective, feelings of safety reduce activation in the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. When the amygdala is quiet, the parasympathetic nervous system becomes more dominant. Heart rate slows. Muscles release tension. Breathing deepens naturally. This is why emotional reassurance matters just as much as a comfortable mattress. Humans evolved in environments where danger was often unpredictable. Sudden noises, unfamiliar movements, or tense social interactions required vigilance. Even today, your brain continues scanning for signs of instability. When information feels uncertain, controversial, or emotionally charged, it activates subtle alertness. Conversely, predictability signals security. This is where steady, rhythmic sound becomes powerful. A calm, low voice delivered at a slow pace can reduce neural vigilance. Research in auditory neuroscience shows that consistent rhythms encourage synchronization between external sound and internal physiological patterns. In simple terms, your brain begins to match its rhythm to what it hears. If the voice is rushed, sharp, or emotionally intense, the brain mirrors that energy. If the voice is even, measured, and warm, your internal state often follows. Think about how naturally you relax when listening to steady rain or a soft fan humming in the background. These sounds are predictable. They do not demand interpretation. They do not surprise you. Because of that, your mind does not need to stay on guard. The same principle applies to speech. A slow cadence, gentle pauses, and a lower pitch communicate calm. Your brain interprets these cues subconsciously. There is no urgency in the tone, so there is no need for heightened awareness. Rhythm also plays a role in cognitive pacing. When information is delivered slowly, your thoughts slow as well. If speech is rapid, your mind accelerates to keep up. If speech is unhurried, your thinking follows that tempo. Beyond sound, the type of information you consume matters deeply. Content that provokes debate, strong opinions, or intense emotional reactions stimulates the brain's evaluative systems. You begin analyzing, agreeing, disagreeing, predicting consequences. This mental activity keeps the cortex engaged and active. In contrast, neutral, non-controversial information allows the mind to drift. Topics that are interesting but emotionally light create gentle engagement without stress. This is why listening to soft storytelling, nature descriptions, or calm educational material before bed can feel soothing. The key is emotional neutrality. When content does not demand judgment, your mind can relax its analytical grip. Instead of evaluating, it observes. Instead of reacting, it receives. This shift reduces cognitive load and signals safety. Another dimension of safety is familiarity. Familiar sounds, known voices, and repeated routines create psychological comfort. The brain does not need to process novelty when it recognizes patterns. Novelty requires assessment. Familiarity requires less effort. If you repeatedly listen to the same calm audio at night, your brain begins to associate that sound with rest. Over time, the sound itself becomes a cue for relaxation. This is conditioning at work again, simple and reliable. Safety also involves internal dialogue. If your thoughts at night are critical or catastrophic, your nervous system reacts accordingly. If your inner voice is gentle and reassuring, it reduces tension. Phrases such as "it's okay to rest" or "nothing needs to be solved right now" can soften mental pressure. Self-talk is not trivial. The brain responds to internal language almost as strongly as to external cues. When you combine steady sound, neutral information, familiar patterns, and compassionate self-talk, you create an environment, both inside and outside, that signals calm. It is important to remember that feeling safe does not mean eliminating all uncertainty from life. It means temporarily setting aside problem-solving. The night is not the time for decisions or debates. It is a space for restoration. Psychology teaches us that the mind slows when threat perception decreases. Decreased threat perception allows physiological relaxation. Physiological relaxation opens the door to sleep. You do not need to force calmness. You need to reduce signals of danger. When your surroundings are predictable, your input is gentle, and your inner voice is kind, your brain gradually releases vigilance. And when vigilance softens, peace has room to enter. Understanding the psychology of safety and calm is reassuring. But reassurance becomes transformation only when it turns into action. The encouraging part is this: improving sleep does not require dramatic change. It requires small, steady adjustments, applied consistently. These practices are simple. Their power lies in repetition. 1. Listen to gentle content before sleep. One of the easiest ways to guide your mind toward rest is through calm auditory input. When you listen to soft, steady content before bed, you give your brain something neutral to focus on. This prevents it from wandering toward unfinished tasks or emotionally charged thoughts. The key word is gentle. Choose content with a slow pace, even tone, and minimal emotional intensity. Educational material delivered calmly, nature descriptions, or quiet storytelling work well. The purpose is not excitement. It is structure without urgency. Auditory focus serves two psychological functions. First, it reduces cognitive drift into worry. Second, it gradually entrains your internal rhythm to the pace of the voice. If the speech is slow, your mental tempo slows as well. Over time, repetition strengthens association. If you consistently listen to the same type of calming content before sleep, your brain begins linking that sound with rest. Eventually, The first few minutes of listening may trigger relaxation automatically. This is conditioning working gently in your favor. Familiarity enhances this effect. Re-listening to content you already know can be even more soothing than something new. When there is no suspense or novelty, your brain does not need to stay alert. 2. Focus on slow, deep breathing. Breathing is one of the most direct pathways to calming the nervous system. While many bodily processes happen automatically, breathing can be consciously adjusted, and this adjustment sends powerful signals to the brain. When you breathe slowly and deeply, especially with a slightly longer exhale, you stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system through the vagus nerve. This reduces heart rate and lowers physiological arousal. You might try inhaling gently through your nose for 4 counts, pausing briefly, then exhaling for 6 counts. The numbers are flexible. What matters is steadiness. Deep breathing also anchors attention. Instead of following a chain of thoughts, your mind rests on a physical rhythm. This shifts awareness from abstract worries to present moment sensation. It is normal for thoughts to interrupt. When they do, you simply return attention to the breath without judgment. Each return is part of the practice. Within a few minutes, many people notice subtle changes: shoulders dropping, jaw unclenching, heartbeat softening. These are signs that the body is transitioning toward rest. 3. Avoid highly stimulating information in the evening. Evening is not just a time on the clock, it is a psychological phase. Your nervous system is preparing to shift from activity to recovery. Highly stimulating content interferes with this shift. Emotionally intense news, dramatic debates, competitive games, or suspenseful media activate stress-related brain regions. Even if the stimulation feels enjoyable, it increases arousal. Heart rate rises slightly. Attention sharpens. This state is incompatible with immediate sleep. Light exposure from screens also suppresses melatonin, the hormone that signals nighttime to the body. Bright blue light delays the natural sleep cycle. This does not mean you must eliminate all evening entertainment. Instead, be intentional about timing. If possible, place stimulating activities earlier in the evening. In the final hour before bed, choose lower intensity input. Protecting this time is an investment in emotional stability. The brain needs space to decelerate. 4. Establish a consistent relaxation routine. Routines communicate safety. When you repeat a small sequence of actions every night, your brain begins recognizing the pattern. These actions become cues. Rest is approaching. The routine does not need to be elaborate. In fact, simplicity works best. You might dim the lights, wash your face, prepare your bed, and sit quietly for 5 minutes. The order and repetition matter more than complexity. Over time, these behaviors become conditioned signals. The moment you begin the sequence, your nervous system anticipates relaxation. Consistency strengthens association. Try to keep bedtime and wake-up time relatively stable, even on weekends. This supports your circadian rhythm, reinforcing biological predictability. You are not forcing your body into discipline. You are aligning with its natural cycle. 5. Combine practices for greater effect. Each strategy, gentle listening, slow breathing, reduced stimulation, and routine, works individually. Together, they create a powerful environment of calm. Imagine the sequence. Lights dim, a familiar soft voice begins playing. You settle into bed, breathing slows naturally. No urgency, no analysis. Just gradual descent into quiet. Sleep does not always arrive instantly. But when the environment consistently signals safety and steadiness, the brain learns to trust the process. Patience is essential. Conditioning takes time. If you practice these habits for several weeks, the effect strengthens. The most important shift is psychological. Stop treating sleep as a test you must pass. Instead, treat it as a state you prepare for. When your evening includes gentle input, steady breathing, emotional boundaries, and predictable rituals, you align with your nervous system's design. And in that alignment, rest becomes not something you chase, but something that comes to you naturally. Psychology does more than explain human behavior. It offers tools, quiet, practical tools, that improve daily life in subtle but powerful ways. Sleep is one of the clearest examples. When we understand how the brain interprets safety, rhythm, and predictability, we begin to see that restful sleep is not random. It is influenced by signals. Signals of calm. Signals of steadiness. Signals that say, "You are safe now." Modern life constantly stimulates the nervous system. Information moves fast. Emotions are amplified. Attention is pulled in many directions. In that environment, the mind rarely slows on its own. It must be guided. This is where gentle psychological truths become meaningful. Simple, non-controversial information can soothe the brain because it requires no defense. Slow, steady sounds reduce vigilance because the brain mirrors rhythm. Predictable routines calm the body because repetition signals security. These ideas are not dramatic. They do not promise instant transformation. Their strength lies in their softness. A peaceful mind is not empty. It is regulated. It is balanced between awareness and rest. When the nervous system shifts from alertness to recovery, sleep deepens naturally. During deep sleep, the body repairs tissue, consolidates memory, and restores energy. Rest is not laziness. It is biological maintenance. By choosing calm input before bed, practicing slow breathing, limiting strong stimulation, and maintaining consistent routines, you are not forcing sleep. You are cooperating with your brain's design. Over time, this cooperation builds trust between mind and body, and trust reduces resistance. In the end, the key to restorative sleep is not complexity. It is gentleness. A steady rhythm, a predictable pattern, a sense of safety. When the mind feels safe, it lets go. And when it lets go, sleep arrives, deep, natural, and renewing. In conclusion, psychology does not only help us understand human behavior, it also provides practical ways to improve our daily lives. Sleep is one of the clearest examples of this connection. We have learned that the brain relaxes when it feels safe, that slow and steady rhythms reduce alertness, and that simple, non-stimulating information can calm the mind. We have also seen how small habits, such as deep breathing and consistent routines, can support deeper and more restorative sleep. The key message is simple: a peaceful mind leads to better rest. When we reduce stimulation and create a sense of safety, sleep becomes more natural and effortless. Thank you for listening.